Hey, everybody. Welcome to Vertical MRO, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts. In this two-part series of Vertical MRO, co-host Jon Gray and I sit down with Drew Califf, a customer service engineer, or CSE at Bell. Join us as we explore Drew's remarkable aviation journey. The series emphasizes the critical elements of education, teamwork, and communication in the industry. The conversation dives into unique challenges faced when working in remote areas, highlighting the significance of improvisation in the tool use and experience of maintaining helicopters under extreme weather conditions. Drew shares valuable insights on leadership and the importance of fostering a positive work environment, underscoring how fun and camaraderie can enhance a workplace with morale. Through this engaging dialogue, Drew reflects on his experience at Bell, the value of customer service, and the satisfaction that comes from effective problem solving. He also emphasizes the necessity of ongoing training and the ability to adapt to ever-evolving technological advancements in aviation. Tune in for an inspiring conversation and two-part series that sheds light on the dynamic world of helicopter maintenance and the dedicated professionals who keep it soaring. I'm Val. This is Vertical MRO. Let's get this going. Special thanks to our sponsors for this podcast: Salus Aviation, Safe Structure Designs, and Precision Aviation Group.
Welcome to the Vertical MRO podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts.
All right, everyone, you're ready to contact. You're cleared to the Bravo.
The Vertical MRO podcast explores the fascinating world of helicopter maintenance, repair, and overhaul with your host, Val Medved.
Atlanta altimeter 3029, approved as requested.
The podcast features helicopter technicians, mechanics, engineers, and MRO experts who share invaluable industry insight, knowledge, and stories that will inspire current and aspiring industry maintainers.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Vertical MRO. Yours truly, Mr. Val Medved. And in tow, my good old buddy, don't call me Gray Goose, Jon Goose. Gray Goose. Yeah, that's the name. Yeah. Jon Gray Goose. I like that.
I like that. Yeah. You actually, that's a nice segue into the drink of the day, but I'm not going we'll circle back to that.
Perfect.
It is an honor to be here, Val, with you and our guests. I'm really excited to talk to. We've got a lot in common. We're in the same portion of the United States, so we've got a lot of folks that we know in common, which is pretty cool. But yeah, honored to be here. Thanks for having me, Val.
Little West Coast representing over there. Let me throw up the West Coast. There it is.
Yeah.
Today, our guest, yeah, you're right. It's super exciting to have this guest on today. He is a part of the OE network there in the Bell side. He is a CSE extraordinaire. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Drew Califf.
Califf.
I messed it up. Even after we talked about it, Califf, Mr. Califf, no there worries. It is. Drew, welcome to the show, buddy. How are we doing?
Very good. It's a pleasure to be on here with you guys, and I'm real excited about it. So thank you for the opportunity.
Attaboy. Well, thanks for kind of getting on board with us here. And even though I just butchered your name after we talked about it here, so it's
it's not uncommon.
Kind of rushed into this here. I just kind of ran up from football practice here. I was coaching there, and hopefully the fan on my hair doesn't make me look like Beyonce too much right now. So,
like you said, a face for radio.
A face for radio. Yeah. There it is.
Oh, it's good stuff.
As we start off our show here, Drew, we're going to kind of base the first and most integral question of the show is, what's in your hand, buddy? What are we drinking?
Well, today I have a Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, a Northern California classic.
That's your Jon's alley there. Jon, what are we drinking, buddy?
I'm just going old school. We talked about Grey Goose. I'm rolling old school with vodka soda. So
vodka, nice.
Yeah,
so today you just fit the Grey Goose apropos. Cheers.
Yep. Cheers, boys.
A little Canadian classic there.
Cheers.
A little Sleeman 2.0. It's a little light side, but it's clear. We're good. Cheers, boys.
There you go. Cheers.
Cheers.
I was just telling the boys here that's prior to us recording here, Southern Manitoba, we were unusually hot. We're over the weekend, I kid you not, we were probably, without the humidity, it was 80, 82. And then with the humidity, it was 90 and 95 for Southern Manitoba this time of the year. Makes me think global warming's real.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
And we had a killer heat wave, as you know, Drew, come through California.
Oh, yeah.
It was gnarly. We had up where I'm at, about 6,000 feet. We were right close to 100 degrees, and we'd gone down to Redlands, which is in the valley below us.
Yeah.
The middle of the heat wave, it was 115 degrees.
That's what it hit where I'm at.
6,000 feet.
No, this is down in the valley. This is
okay.
200 feet or so, but But I came back out of the meeting I was in. I was at like 8 o'clock at night. It was still 105. I was like, holy cow.
Yeah. Too hot.
I lived in Calgary for about 5 years, and that's kind of like the Canadian version of Denver. And I believe their elevation of different parts of town is going to be about 3,500, 4,000 feet. And being at 80 degrees and above, I roast. Like that's a tomato burn because it's high and dry.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I can't imagine where you at 6,000 feet are at, John. So
it's dry. That's for sure. I mean, the relative humidity is always low, or generally it's low where we're at, which is nice. They did talk, you hear about it's dry heat. Well, to me, that's a real thing because I go back to the East Coast.
Yeah.
It's humid. And I'm like, holy moly, whole different game.
Yeah. I'm the same way going back home to Illinois. It's just like, man, I don't know how I grew up.
That Midwestern humidity.
Yeah. Is the worst.
Yep. John and I were in Houston there a few weeks back there, and the 4-H's kicked in. And so that's a lot of sweatiness going on there. Sweatiness. Yeah. I mean, as you can tell, like we're two svelte guys that like, wow, did you guys shower together? Yes. That's exactly what happened. So
I fit into the sweaty club. It takes a lot of coal to get this train moving.
That's right. The way I look at it, boys, these bodies are pyramids. That's the way we look at it, right? So hard to move, but we look good in a triangle. So that's just us.
Diesel.
Yeah, diesel. Drew, welcome to the show, my friend. Welcome to the Vertical MRO portion of the Helicast team, and we're honored to have you there, buddy. Kind of looking over your outlines here. I'm going to give you a chance to kind of get right into the weeds with us here, kind of getting you talking about your career path and just an overview of your journey on becoming a. So let's be clear. To our guest.
Yeah,
you work at Bell Helicopter and you're a CSE. So tell us all about that. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, so I've been a customer service engineer, CSE, or a tech rep with Bell for a little over a year now. Currently, my area is Southern California and Mexico, and I've been loving every minute of it. It's such an amazing job. And, as soon as I learned what a tech rep was when I was wrenching, I always wanted to be one of those. So Todd Ellison retired from the California area. You guys may know him, may not, but he was the CSE, and he told me about this position and told me I should apply. And here I am today. It's been great.
Yeah, I guess both of you boys are real close to that whole border there, aren't you?
Yeah. When I worked for San Diego PD, I worked Southern Division, which is in San Ysidro, and that's literally the border city to Mexico. So I was assigned to the actual border. There's a portal building, or at least it used to be, right outside of the border entry was a substation for San Diego PD. So our job was to work out of that substation, and we were a border crime prevention team. So what would happen is a lot of folks go down to Tijuana and party, and they don't want to fight when they're in Tijuana. They want to wait till they get back to the U.S. to fight. They know what happens if you go to jail in Tijuana. They'll wait to come to the U.S. and they'll fight on our side. So our job's to prevent that. And
wow,
it was a sporty assignment. I'll tell you that.
You're being polite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're a year in with Bell now. Can you bring up a little bit of your past or prior to Bell?
Yeah. So I grew up in Rockford, Illinois, 90 miles northwest of Chicago.
Yep.
I wasn't the greatest high school student. My family said I was lost. I said I was finding myself, so I did a few, real dead end jobs after I graduated, third shift at a gas station. And I was like, it's not for me. I started working at UPS, at their air hub there, air cargo. And the guy there told me about what an AMP was. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I like wrenching. So I joined the AMP program with Rock Valley College. It's a great school. Mark Adolphson runs that. It was a 2-year program, and I got my AMP. And then after, I was like, well, I kind of want to keep going with this. So I found out about
the hook was set.
Yeah, exactly. I found out about Southern Illinois University. So went down there to pursue my bachelor's. I started in avionics, did a semester of that. And I said, what else you got? And then they had helicopters. So that's how I got into the helicopter field there.
Southern Illinois University. Isn't that with one of our guests there? One of my first guests with Miss Faith Ortega?
Yep.
There it is.
Yeah,
okay.
She's a graduate there. So very excellent school, excellent helicopter program. You know, a lot of A&P schools have like what a swash plate is and how an auto works. And that's kind of the end of helicopters. So the SIU was really good.
What kept you kind of rolling with that? What was the motivational factor there of kind of jumping in and saying, okay, this is SIU is the right place? What was the one aha moment? I've asked this of all my guests, and I love the stories that I get from it. Once the sickness is plugged, you're plugged.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was, you know, my sister's a doctor. She's older than me, so I kind of had to keep going past my associate's degree. And then, you know, I was ready to get out of Rockford, and, you know, I know the importance of higher education, and it made sense for me. And, you know, it was an excellent choice for me to go there. And that's really when I got into helicopters, was that program there.
We just had this conversation not long ago on a podcast recording. I really think it's important to touch on, because, you know, I talk about higher education today, and our kids, it's important for our kids to go and get their degrees. And there's some questions that surround higher education, like how valuable is it right now? And it's a pertinent question, right? It's worth talking about, because you graduate and you're maybe not in a better position than anybody else who didn't.
Yeah.
You look at the trade schools and what those offer. You know, the 2-year degree programs are amazing.
Yep.
But I keep coming back to the 4-year programs. I think what they offer you is opportunity that maybe didn't exist before. Some options that may not have existed. And I look at you with Bell.
Yeah.
You know, had you not been a part of SIU, would Bell be an option today?
I think so. But what SIU really did for me was prepare me for the helicopter industry. I was comfortable with getting into the Bell manuals or talking about helicopter specific components. And a big one. So after SIU, I went to PJ Helicopters in Red Bluff, California.
Yep.
And at the time, the SIU school was where they hosted the Bell 214 training. So PJs had 214s, and they would send mechanics to this school. The mechanics started talking to people at the school, and then SIU told us as students, like, hey, this operator out in California is looking for people, you know? So that's kind of how all the networking thing started.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's a big operator. You're going from, like, I know PJ from my professional side of the world, and that's a big operator. So you're going 0 to 60 in a snap.
Yeah. So I started at PJ's in 2012. So it was before Blackhawks, before Chinooks, everything they've got going on now. And it was a good core group of maybe 15 or 20 of us. And, you know, just hands down, an amazing place to work.
Yeah.
Amazing group of guys. I think I had some of the most fun in my career at PJ's.
Give him a shout out, dude. Who's just throw a couple names on there, buddy. Go ahead.
Justin Gunsalls, J Guns, Dave McCammon, my buddy K2. We called him, it's Kyle, but we already had a Kyle, so he was K2. Nice. It was just a great group of people, and more that I can't name.
That's
right
fair.
now,
That's fair.
so.
Now, listen, it's like I've said once, I'll say it 1,000 times on this show. Anytime you give a shout out, please do so. And just it gives a little smile to the people that are listening. As hey, you know, your name got named on a podcast, right? Like it's one of those, right? So it's good. It's good.
I got plenty.
But going back to what we were just talking about earlier, John, I think also the other thing too, especially if you go for a higher level of education, most employers now look at that saying, did this person attend it completely for the 2 or 4 years, and what kind of dedication did they kind of have during that education there?
Yeah.
So that's a part of the process. So good for you for sticking with the program and kind of showing dedication first and foremost. Secondly, that you're going to finish it, and thirdly, man, you went from 0 to pro in a heartbeat.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the schooling, the instructors, potential employers will reach out to the instructors. And ask them, like, what do you think of this guy? Is he going to be good? You know, and that holds a lot of weight because they're with them throughout the whole degree. So, you know, you got to kind of present yourself like you're working.
Sure. So to kind of like back to John's question there, would a Bell, would this be kind of like a good collaborative to kind of look at, you know, saying, hey man, I just graduated from SIU.
Yeah.
And is Bell the next option? I guess the proverbial answer is yes, it can prepare you for it.
It definitely can. Yeah. I mean, it's going to get your foot in the helicopter
Right.
door. You're going to be much better off after successfully completing the SIU helicopter program than you would if you
Right.
didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
That kind of feeds right into the next question we're going to kind of talk about here, but we've kind of answered a little bit here with the recruitment impact, because listen, as an industry, we're facing a lot of shortages on the AME, AMP stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
So stuff like this, would something like that, like it kind of, well, mind you, we're asking the same question again, but it would help you if you want to just elaborate just a little bit, kind of what did you do to kind of be shown that, hey, PJ is the next call, but at the same time, if someone's looking at a Bell helicopter or any other, OE, what kind of gears did you grind to kind of get noticed?
Thank you to our sponsor, Solace Aviation. For comprehensive maintenance, repair, and overhaul services, Solace provides in-house expertise, world-class technology, and certifications to service the global aviation market. Excellence starts with Solace. Find out more at www.salusaviation.com.
Yeah, so I put in my application with PJs. They actually hired 2 of us at the time out of SIU to go to PJs. And, they were a little apprehensive because I was an Illinois native. And, I said I wanted to move to California. I think they had been burned on some people going out before and not necessarily staying, but
right.
I was ready. I thought I was going to be surfing, hanging by the beach, and then I show up in Red Bluff and I'm like, what the hell is this? It's not what I had in mind. But I kept a positive attitude. Like I said, great group of guys, like they kept it fun, and the more experience I got, the more fire contracts I could do or go on DEA eradication and bond with these people. And it was just an amazing time.
Thrown to the wolves on a big 214. Wow.
Yes. 214s. And yeah, those things are a beast.
I think we looked at the blade width of one of those one time.
Yeah.
It's the width of a sidewalk.
Yeah. It's like a Cessna wing.
Yeah. That's polite. Yeah. That's a polite way of putting it for sure.
Yep.
For sure.
Yep.
Going into, so when you were at SIU and you're kind of getting trained up, you're looking at it, and before you jumped into PJs, the utility side of the world, were you working predominantly on, like, obviously 214s, but you're looking at Huey experiences, 212s, 205s, 204s?
I wasn't necessarily looking for models specific from the school. The school focused mostly on Bell products. And that was kind of what we were most comfortable with in the manuals. But I was mostly looking, I didn't know really anything about the helicopter industry at the time, And I was kind of looking at geographical specific areas that I would like to move to. And California came up and it worked, Like, I remember they had some pictures on their website at the time with them fighting fires and doing the DEA eradication stuff. I was like, man, this is really cool stuff. Like, this is something I want to be a part of.
The winters are a little more tolerable, I'm sure, in California versus Illinois. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah. So. Yes, definitely.
Talking from a Midwestern Canadian, can that apply? Yeah, I guess so. Central.
Yeah. When I lived in San Diego, I used to like to call my dad, who's still back in Rockford, and I'd tell him, I was like, he told me how cold it's getting. I was like, yeah, getting cold here too. Probably have to shut the windows
tonight. That's a dick move, buddy.
Yeah, it sure is.
Wow. When you you jumped into the utility world and you started kind of getting some good experiences there. In anything you can kind of talk about the experiences working with the utility helicopter side of the world, or the guys flying them or maintaining those particular helicopters on the UT side?
Yeah. The utility is really, my whole career has been in utility, and it's after seeing some of these other operators in my position I'm at now, like the utility world, like these things are workhorses, they're dump trucks, but they still, people like a nice paint job. So I know a lot of times you'd see dings and scratches on certain aircraft that utility operators, and it's like, well, it's not that big a deal, but it is a big deal because it's still, you want to protect the metal underneath. Yeah, there's quite a bit with the utility world.
I know a bunch of our guests that we've interviewed in the past, one of their favorite ones they've always talked about is the 212. It seems to be kind of the what did one say? The Chevy pickup, the old square body.
Yeah.
The square body, super dependable, always just it's not hard to maintain them, but it is like once you do them, they're robust. So you can see the application of said, Hueys, 205s, 212s, because they're just all variants of each other if you think about it.
Exactly. And PJs, we didn't have any 212s. We had Northwest Hueys. So I would go on fires. I spent a lot of fires with the Hueys, the 214s, and the 407s. And then eventually the 60s.
Okay.
So, and then 412s up and left.
Go ahead, John.
The topic of fires is near and dear to my heart right now. Where I am, we just went through an evacuation. In fact, we just came home Sunday. But the aircrafts on these fires in California and really anywhere are so vital. They've become such an integral part of the effort to control these fires. So it's really interesting to me from a maintenance standpoint. How do you work in these remote environments to maintain these beasts? Because I would imagine in these operating environments, you're really putting them through the paces. So what has your experience been in the field operating on these things?
That's a great question. And a lot of it has to do with, in my opinion, support at your base. So you have an issue, you're the one who, if you can't figure it out, you're going to relay to your home base. And if you can't figure it out, they're going to get in the manuals, start looking, talk to people who may have more experience regarding that. And they're going to help you out too. The fires, I personally, I was in my 20s and single. Like I loved the fire world, going out and hanging with the fire crew, learning with the fire crew. I would sit in the briefings. I learned a lot doing the fires. And the helicopter, it's vital that it stays up. So you want to take your time doing your post-flight, pre-flight inspections, talk with the pilot. If you're looking at anything, you're taking a panel off, communicate with them. It's not about, like, if a pilot wants to double check your work, it's not a trust thing. It's to cover both of you. It's verifying. And, it's your friend who's flying up there. You're spending
extra set of eyes doesn't hurt.
Exactly. You're spending 12 days with them and, your buddies.
Yeah.
Did you see any trends on fires as far as mechanical issues as compared to, normal operations or not so much?
Not so much. It'd be kind of the same stuff. Like if you got a pitch link that's wearing, you make a note of it. You want to track it, but you also want to use the limits that are in the book, because you could be on a fire flying hot and heavy for a couple days, and technically the aircraft's good. Maybe get the pitch link coming, but don't take it out of service until, it's not good. And then, there'd always be, luckily never when I was there, but an operator who would find a crack in the structure somewhere, and, you'd see him working all night out in the fields. Man, that sucks.
Brings up something we were just talking about, Val. We're talking about with maintaining equipment. You've got to be able to see the equipment you're looking at to inspect it, right? And in fire environment, everything's filthy. Yeah. So how did you in the field, clean the stuff to a degree to where you could at least do a visual inspection and look for those cracks or the signs of wear?
Yeah. So if it was at if it was a contract, not a call when needed, but like a written contract, exclusive use, we would pick a day if the aircraft looked dirty. And if we weren't flying, the heli crew would come out, the firefighters, help us wash it with their truck, and then inspect it. But if it's flying, hot and heavy, you're using a rag and simple green. And then if it gets really dirty and you're smoked in, you can't fly, you could be nice to a water tender driver and ask him to come over and hook up the hose. I was going to ask,
especially especially the southwest, northwest region of the States, all of west coast of Canada and the western half of the province or western half of the country, that's got to be far and few between there, especially like when you said you're flying hot and heavy. To find those couple of minutes, you probably have to do that in the middle of the evening where it's pitch black and you got to make sure you have the right lighting on here. And like you said, you got to befriend that water guy.
Yeah. And, you know, like PJs, like they know how to do it. So when we were going on fires, we would have a maintenance trailer, and we would have floodlights, oils, consumables, cleaning products, pressure washer, everything you need. Like they knew what they were doing, and they still do, I'm sure.
And cleaning of the aircraft is just as important, isn't it, John?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. I remember we would keep a box of powdered Tide.
Oh, wow.
Laundry detergent, because that's what we'd use. And then, you know, back at the hotel, you just go to a fuel truck, get a little scoop of that for your clothes at the hotel.
Improvising is the gift of life, my friend.
Very, very nice of them to provide that to us.
Right. Good work.
What did you guys use the Tide for in the field?
Washing the aircraft. They eventually went away with that. I think they did some research or something, but somebody wanted to change it from Tide. But I think quite a few operators were doing that for a while.
That's got to be a few years back, because I know they're pretty stringent upon certain ideas now to kind of wash the aircraft. And sure.
Oh yeah.
And like you said, when you're in the middle of the night, man, you got maybe a few hours of sleep and rest.
Yeah.
You have to kind of really figure out what was going to work for you at that particular moment.
Yeah, definitely.
So you said you worked on utility with the 407, 212s, and some of the Hueys.
Yeah, Northwest Hueys.
Yep. Walk
214s and
no, go ahead. I was just going to say, walk us through some of the best practice advice you can kind of talk about in those positions where you kind of, you know, like you have multiple platforms and you're looking at maintaining multiple platforms. So just kind of walk us through that, because I know there's some different practices, but they've all been successful, and kind of talking about that just that helps our listeners kind of connect with that and saying, oh, okay, that could work, or how do we plan for that? Yeah.
So my time at PJ's, you know, it was mostly Bell, a lot of 206s, the 407s, Northwest Hueys and 214s, but we also had quite a few 500F models and 530 NOTARs. And then, you know, we got into the UH-60s. So it was a lot of airframes we're learning. And, you know, what I would tell myself is it's all nuts and bolts. It's all mechanical. But the biggest advice I could say is, you know, get into the maintenance manual and read what you're going to be doing. Make sure you got parts on hand. The system's description in the maintenance manual is a great tool that I've seen not a lot of people utilize, but that it will give you a good rundown of what system you're getting ready to work on. You know, take your time and never be afraid to say, I don't know, you know, that's my big
emphasize
thing.
A little more on that systems description, because I think that is one of the key parts of kind of really getting to know that aircraft in a short period of time.
Yeah. So in the Bell maintenance manuals, they now have a separate book that's like manufacturer's data. And you can go there and open up system descriptions. And it gives you or the pilot, whoever's reading it, a pretty thorough description of how the fuel system works, how the main rotor works. And then, you know, you can dive even deeper into the maintenance manual and go under whatever chapter you're looking at, and you can go to, you know, main rotor blade and get a description of what it's made out of, how it works. And it's really good information that's available to anybody who's working on these machines.
Sorry guys, because we're a dog friendly show, both my pups came running down the stairs, and I'm sure one's going to start with the squeaky toy here right away. I apologize.
No, I got mine in here too.
Good.
Yeah.
My dog's Grace. She's like, hey, can you play with me? I'm like, give me a little bit here. We're fine. We're good. John, go ahead. Looks like you had a question there. Sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah, no, you're good. I think of my own hangar, and you know, we had 125s. We had 3 125s. So our guys got used to working on the same aircraft day in, day out. They kind of knew that the nuances of each aircraft, where the problems lie.
Yeah.
And so it gave them a little bit of an advantage knowing where to look and what problems were specific to which aircraft. But I imagine in the field, when you're working with who knows what aircraft, it's got to be kind of challenging to kind of go through that initial troubleshooting process with each aircraft that comes in, because you don't know what the history of this aircraft and what some of their tendencies are. Can you kind of talk about that in your experience in the field? Safe Structure Designs offers creative, customizable ergonomic safety solutions with over 20 years of experience. Their custom design process is free, ensuring safety and efficiency. Let them create your ideal solution. Visit www.safe-2.com. That's www.safe-2.com for more information.
Yeah. So in the field, especially, I would make sure to talk with the pilot one-on-one, get a full story of what exactly he's seeing. Because if he's saying one thing while he's on his way to the bar, that's not going to help you too much. So really get a good picture.
You don't need the bar testimonial going on the way to the bar, do you? No,
no. Like, I'm staying here. You got to tell me. So they, getting the full picture, experience. If you have somebody you can call, kind of walk you through. That was my big thing. Derek Spooner, the PJ avionics guy, like, nicest guy you'd ever meet, and he doesn't make you feel like an idiot when you're talking to him about something. So that's always nice.
That's a special kind of guy.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of my advice. And then also, if I was going to be doing my pre-flight in the morning, each morning I'd pick a different section and just spend a little more time on that section. Maybe if you're working on a Bell medium, pop off the side hell hole panels, look in there, close it up. Next day you do your pre-flight, and then kind of look at the tail, and just kind of rotate. So you're spending some time on the whole ship.
I only laugh because of one of our past guests he talked about dropping a bolt down the hell hole in the middle of the night on the 212.
Yeah.
He said the amount of hours he spent looking for crap in that design was just on. Yeah, it was a good night to kind of really figure out what you're really made of.
Yeah, definitely. Props to him. We'd work on the Bell mediums on like a metal cart, and you drop something in that hellhole and you'd listen, and if you heard the cart, you're like, yes, yeah.
And then if you don't, it's like, shit moment.
I was like, damn it, all right, going in.
Yep. Sorry. Go ahead, carry on. I interrupted. I apologize.
No. I think that's all I had for that one, John.
You touched on something, and you've actually brought it up quite a few times, and I think it's important because we've talked about this in the past, and the topic is on communication with your air crew, whether it's your pilot, your TFO, your hoist operator, whoever that is. You've brought that up multiple times. Can you talk about the efforts you've put into developing those relationships and the importance of communicating with them?
Yeah, definitely. Because these people, if you're on a 12-day rotation, you're going to be spending 14 hours a day with them for 12 days in a row. And it's nice to be friendly and have a nice friendship, but you also need a working relationship. So if you need to communicate, say you got a crew swap coming and the pilot talks to somebody at the base and you talk to somebody else at the base, you're not really communicating. I always believed in strong communication, and, everybody's on the same page. It just makes it easier.
It's a pillar of success.
Yeah.
I feel like there used to be this dividing line, like you do this and I do that. We don't talk about it unless we have to, but I feel like that's changed in the last 10, 15 years, where I really do think there's kind of a crew teamwork mentality that goes in between the pilots, the air crews, and the maintainers. I feel like it's gotten a lot stronger. Have you seen that in your own experience?
Yeah. So I've worked at three major places before Bell. I worked at PJ Helicopters, Maritime Helicopters, and Helistream. And I've always heard,
fist.
Yeah, Helistream.
There you
go. I've always heard the kind of rivalry between pilots and mechanics. I personally have never experienced it. I don't know if it's my bubbly award-winning personality or I'm just lucky to be with all these pilots. But I've always considered us a team to get the job done, know?
Absolutely.
Yep. I don't know that anybody that's been on this show yet, John, and correct me if I'm wrong, kind of even like, I think you're bang on. I think the past, I'm going to say like 25, 30 years ago, that might've been the case, but over the last generation or two here, it's really, listen, it takes a whole team to keep that helicopter flying. And I think every one of us has an accountability and an issue to make sure that it keeps flying and it doesn't fall upon just one person saying, oh, I did this job, that guy did that job.
Yeah.
He should be held at more fault. That. I don't think that, for lack of a better pun, I don't think that flies today.
Yeah.
That's,
Like the pun, by the way.
Yeah. Thank you. Yep.
When I was a maintenance inspector, that was kind of one of my sayings. If, you're doing something on the press and the stack up seems a little iffy, it's always more fun to mess up with a buddy, get them involved and see what they think.
There's that meme that, and this is not related in any way, shape or form to helicopter repairs, but there's that joke of, they say that a good friend will get you out of the jail. Your best friend is usually the one beside you. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yes.
So, well, and that's, what, dude. So you spent some time up, and I know maritime fairly well.
Okay.
So you spent some time up in Alaska.
Yes.
Wow. First and foremost, the fishing is kick ass up there.
Yes.
But kind of walk us through, if you can, delicately about working in that's a remote section of the planet.
Yeah.
And when you're up there, you kind of really have to count on your own devices.
So I worked at PJ's twice. I left to go work up at Maritime. And
shout out to Steve Slade.
Isaac Mackey. He was my boss. I worked in Fairbanks, worked and lived in Fairbanks.
Okay.
And it was kind of my dream to go up there and do it. And I was young. I wasn't married. I needed to do it before it slipped by.
Mm-hmm.
And man, that was an experience up there. A lot of fun, but it's a different breed up there. You got to be tough to work up there.
You do.
And,
hells yeah.
In Fairbanks, it'd be 40 below, and sun would rise at 11:30 in the morning and set at 3 in the afternoon, and just you're in the hangar all day with the lights, and then you walk out for your lunch break and it's dark out. It's like, what the hell is going on here?
What's the coldest you've ever experienced up there?
So I did ISEX, which it's a military training exercise with submarines, and we were like 100 miles north of Alaska in the Arctic Ocean.
Whew.
And I did 3 weeks in a camp, and that was coldest. The temperature, I believe, was 47 below, and then the wind chill was 75 below.
Well, that's Winnipeg, dude. That's nothing. That's like
it was cold.
I remember one of my birthdays, I ice fished. It was negative 42.
Oh man,
I was in a tent where it was 60 degrees, but it was negative 42 outside.
Yeah, and I liked telling people about it and just see the reaction, but at the time, man, it was rough.
John just these lost for words right now.
No thanks.
Yeah.
Question, though, how do you have the dexterity to work on anything?
Yes,
in those temperatures.
So working in the cold, it's brutal. Like everything's going to take you 4 times as long.
Yeah.
I would keep a magnet with a string in my go box because when you drop a washer or whatever in the snow, like it's gone.
Yep.
And that was when I was new up there. I'd try to find it, but after a while, I was like, "Oh, dropped it. Got to get a new one."
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also with how remote you are, I would also spend a month on, month off out in the Aleutian Islands in a village of 80 people. And, you'd get weathered out. So if you're doing any type of maintenance, you had to be extra careful and cautious, because if you break something or, whatever, your parts are going to be out there for at least a week.
How do you even plan for that? Cause we've talked to a couple of guests, and they've worked in some more remote areas, but Fairbanks, Alaska is about the most remote that I think we've kind of come across on this show. And I know a lot of our listeners are probably like, oh, I've been to worse, but like, how do you even plan for that? Walk us through that process.
Yeah. So planning, Isaac Mackey, and Steve Slade, those guys all did an excellent job with maintenance forecasting. And that base out in the Aleutians, it was a village of 80 people east of Dutch Harbor. There's nothing out there.
Yeah.
And so we had a few cabinets filled with your basics, packings and, greases, consumables, whatnot. But, you can bring as many parts as you want, but at a certain point, something's going to break and you don't have it.
Yeah.
And at ISEC. So we had a 412 and a 407, and we were on this ice camp for 3 weeks. And we had these, they called them like handy Herman heaters that we would plug into the inlets and the avionics bays. But man, it was just brutal. I remember trying to do like a 25-hour on the 412 and grease these bearings. And you'd like, is this even doing anything? Because you'd get like 2 pumps, and then you'd have to take this heating duct and warm up your grease gun so you could pump out more.
Yeah. John, you're not a guy of this extreme weather, but I'll tell you, I've lived in it most of my life, and at -40, even as so, like, when you have, it was funny because you have a couple of Southerners that come up to Canada, whether it's to fish or just to explore Winnipeg or Southern Manitoba in the wintertime. Like, y'all got a lot of electric cars over here. No, man, those are block heaters because your oil is gummed up, and it's just like, it's that. That's not even a guarantee at -40. You can still plug it in, and your car, even though it's electric, or EFI or you fuel injected, she'll still chug.
Wow.
And I can't imagine what it must be like in a helicopter. Like, you see a lot of those guys with those thermal heaters inside of that just to keep that engine bay warm so that oil remains fluid.
Yeah, but the Tannis system.
How do the bushings and all the rubbers and plastics fare in those environments?
That's a good question. I didn't necessarily see like a higher frequency of us changing them. I think after a while, they kind of warm up and start acting the way they're supposed to. I think it's obvious. It's honestly harder on those components down here, John, where we're at now in Southern California, and they're sitting and baking in the sun all day,
Yeah, breaking down.
Yep.
Yeah.
More than anything, it'll probably just be a bunch of rumbles and squeaks at first for the bushings and bearings.
Yeah, then everything kind of finds its
happy
John,
place. I apologize, I cut you off there, buddy. Go ahead.
No, you're good. And I might be taking Val's question away, but you talked about planning for these trips and the tool bag and the parts supply that you might want to take with you. But if you were to say there's one tool that I absolutely cannot live without, whether I'm in the Aleutian Islands or anywhere else, what's that one thing that you would make sure you've got with you?
Hammer.
The fix it all.
Yeah, I would. Oh man, that's a good question. Like a ratchet. One tool would be probably a multi, like, screwdriver set. Multiple bits, could open panels. You can do a lot of that thing, honestly. A lot of things you're not supposed to, but yeah, I would use that. I also, Milwaukee M12. I became a Milwaukee guy when they came out with a battery powered soldering iron, and I brought that with me, and that thing saved my bacon quite a few times.
Yep.
Are you partial to any particular brand of tools?
No. I've got a mix of everything in my box. Harbor Freight.
He's a real mechanic right there.
Yeah. If I'm going to make a tool, I don't want to be cutting up a Snap-on. I'd rather cut up a Harbor Freight.
You're the second guy to say that. Yes. That $6.99 tool is as good as a $69.99 tool.
Thank you to our sponsor, Precision Aviation Group. Mission-critical operators and fleet managers rely on Precision Aviation Group as a worldwide leading rotor and fixed-wing MRO provider. PAG provides tip-to-tail solutions in 4 MRO segments: avionics, components, engines, and manufacturing DER services. A single point of contact gives you access to over 150 million in inventory globally, 24/7. Just call 800-537-2778. Precision Aviation Group. Others sell parts. We sell support.
Yeah, I will tell you a story. When we did that ISEX, Dave Buzga was the pilot up at Maritime, and we were unloading all the gear we got up to the Arctic Ocean with, and their job with the 412 was to sling these torpedoes that the submarines launched. And I remember him unloading, and he opens his bag and he goes, "Who the hell packed a 100-foot long line up to the ocean?" There's nothing to hit up there.
Yeah, that becomes just a great big rope of absolute. It becomes a pole. It's not. There's no line anymore. It's a pole. You got a 100-foot pole dangling from underneath everything.
Yeah.
The other piece of advice I would probably give as I'm going to answer a little bit of the question here for John. Moisturizer. Your fingers and hands will crack like nobody's business to the point where they'll become bloody at that temperature.
Yeah. And sunblock.
Yes. Yeah. I tried selling this the other day. We were last winter, which was a mild one here in southern Manitoba, central Canada. It was nice. We had not a lot of snow. We had some colder days, so the ice, thickened up. So we got a chance to put the skidoos onto the ice, and we went fishing. I actually got sunburnt on the ice at like, what was it, -5 Celsius, -10 Celsius. But the sun, there's no wind. So what are we talking, like 20-ish, 25 degrees ish, with no wind on the ice, and I got burnt. And they're like, oh, where'd you go to vacation? Oh, Lake Winnipeg.
Yep. Last time I'll interrupt, Val. I apologize.
No, go ahead.
Drew, you talked about on the topic of kind of improvising your own tools. And I imagine being in the Aleutian Islands, in Fairbanks, some of the places you've been, you've had to craft some interesting tools.
Yeah,
just out of necessity. If you were to pick one of those tools that you made that was kind of the most interesting, what would you say that is?
I've got a little tool I used for the C20s and C30s fuel control nuts. And it's a little 1/4 inch or 5/16 wrench. I can't remember, but I cut off the box end, put it through a metal rod with a cotter pin through the wrench, so I can get in that nut that's way back there and kind of push it and use it as like a pivoting wrench.
That's cool.
That one's cool. And then a lot of like bullets I made for alignment of parts. I've always been real proud of my homemade bullets.
That's cool.
Good work on the 407s with the C47s. I gotta imagine that's being a complete bitch on that 520 or MD 500 that you were kind of working on.
Yeah, I always liked the
tucked up underneath.
Yeah, and you're hurting your back getting in there. And,
yeah.
First thing we did, take the exhaust off, put a cover on it because you're going to work right above that open exhaust. Thankfully I never saw anyone drop anything down there, but I'm sure it's happened.
Yeah, the magnet on the rope trick is a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah, for the snow.
That's a good one. Imagine, just picture somebody wearing like a magnet plate around their upper body, so stuff will just like.
Yeah, exactly.
You glow when you get x-rayed for your next doctor's appointment.
So did you get a patent yet for your tool that you made?
No, and I can't take credit for that. A guy named Brad Hathaway showed me his, and I had some time up there in Fairbanks, so I figured I'm going to make one.
That's cool.
Cold weather advice? What would you say to anybody that's kind of looking at coming up north of the 49th parallel and all the way up to the Arctic Ocean?
Layers are very important. If you're getting sweaty, take something off because it's not going to be fun if you're sweaty and you cool down.
Yep.
Good gloves. I've never found a pair, but my fingers always get cold eventually.
It's a touch thing. It's a feel thing. And it's your gloves. You always got to take them off and put them on. That's got to be a tough grind.
Yeah. And, just be prepared for everything to take way longer than you're used to.
My wife laughs at me because when I do go ice fishing in the wintertime here, I load my truck up the night before and I got a flotation suit that I take with me that goes no matter what. So
that's smart.
So it's should I punch through? They said I can float for up to 2 hours. I hope to never find that out.
Yeah.
That's a long 2 hours.
But we're also talking like I'm not driving on the ice unless she's 12 inches thick. Like I'm not driving on.
Yeah.
So it's just, God forbid that one day that doesn't ever happen, but I'll be ready in case it does. Yeah. But you're absolutely right. Layers and something that kind of let you breathe a little bit. So yeah, good advice.
Yep.
Good advice. With like, so you when you were up in Alaska, you've talked about the kind of getting by in the cold weather. When you're looking at particular roles you've held from mechanic to assistant DOM, what do you think was probably your biggest contribution to yourself and the overall development? And why would you think that?
Yeah. So I think the biggest contribution to my personal career was being a field mechanic and then eventually a maintenance inspector at PJ's and then also a field mechanic with Maritime. And I say that because that's when I'm with the machines. I'm doing the work, I'm learning from other people and other people are learning from me, which also allows me to learn from them. Definitely my hands-on experience. As I moved more into management, that was a whole nother that's a whole nother, dog and pony show there.
Right.
Now,
thanks for being polite on that one.
It's like, now you're dealing with people's, people, and that's, there's not a maintenance manual like that. For people, so.
Yeah. This is a hot topic here, and I think John, you and I have been talking about this not long ago here, because I think this is going to be an upcoming topic with a lot of people that have become DOM or looking to become a DOM. When it comes to particularly leading, because you're essentially as a DOM, an assistant DOM, and a chief engineer, you are put in a leadership role, right? I think there's a bit of an insufficient amount of education on becoming a good leader.
Yes.
In addition to becoming a good mechanic. A good mechanic you can learn through and through for the rest of your life. But what do you think, what do you think it will take to become a good leader? There's going to be multiple answers to this. I don't know that there's one wrong answer, but to kind of ask that question of what do you think are the key, or what do you think will become paramount to become a good leader in today's helicopter industry?
Well, there's definitely a difference between a manager and a leader. And being a good leader, when I was the assistant DOM and been running my own base with Helistream in San Diego, I would try to listen to everybody, get their input. If anybody had any questions, my office was always open. I explained why I made the decisions I did, kind of give them the big picture so they understand that. And PJ's was great with me doing that. And just trying to keep it fun, because I don't think we get paid enough in this industry for the danger we take on ourselves. And if you're not having fun, it's not worth doing, in my opinion. So if you don't like your job, like go somewhere else.
Yeah. I was taught at a very, very young age in this industry, the dumbest question is the one that isn't asked. So it's just a matter of kind of working with that leader to kind of provide you. And I think even we go back even a couple of guests here, the leader will provide you a solution if you come to him with a solution to kind of help you figure out if it's the right solution. So.
Yeah, definitely. And, and training people how to do a certain task like that, you learn from that as well. I've learned quite a bit by just teaching other people how a particular engine works, or, best way to torque this fastener, any number of things.
Get the satisfaction of showing that individual, whether an AMP or AME, looking at it and kind of having them get the gratification of fixing that. You kind of showed them that. Yeah. And they ask you questions and you're like, oh, I never thought of that. That's a good question. You know? Yeah.
I think you brought up people. There's no manual for people, right? I think the management role really is all about people. Terry Maiucci, one of my favorite guys in the world, he's a Bell guy. He talks about leadership and relates it to loving people, and not in the cheesy way, like I love you, man, but like you've really got to, as a manager and a leader, you've got to figure out how to put the folks that are you're working for above you. How do I put this person? How do I get them to elevate their performance and put them in a position where they can do their job better? And he says something that I think I love. I hadn't heard it from anybody else. I don't. Have you heard Terry speak?
I have not. No.
So he one of the things he says is, "Tell me what you want, tell me what you need, and tell me what makes you mad." And as a leader, I think the last one, "Tell me what makes you mad," is one of those. It's such a cool question, because a lot of times we get frustrated at work, but don't really like. I'm not going to go into the boss and be like, "Hey, this sucks,"
Yeah.
Like you want to go in, if you've got a problem, you typically want to go in with a solution that comes with it. But Terry's like, "Tell me what makes you mad," and I really love that he asked that question. So
that's a loaded statement, dude. That's where I think, you try to, and it's kind of like a coachable moment where you kind of work with the younger individuals, like come to me with a solution and see if it meets what I have as a right idea to that solution. Stand by for a message after a word from our sponsors.
Thank you to our sponsor, Solace Aviation. For comprehensive maintenance, repair, and overhaul services, Solace provides in-house expertise, world-class technology, and certifications to service the global aviation market. Excellence starts with Solace. Find out more at www.salusaviation.com.
Safe Structure Designs offers creative, customizable ergonomic safety solutions with over 20 years of experience. Their custom design process is free, ensuring safety and efficiency. Let them create your ideal solution. Visit www.safe-2.com. That's www.safe-2.com for more information.
Thank you to our sponsor, Precision Aviation Group. Mission-critical operators and fleet managers rely on Precision Aviation Group as a worldwide leading rotor and fixed-wing MRO provider. PAG provides tip-to-tail solutions in 4 MRO segments: avionics, components, engines, and manufacturing DER services. A single point of contact gives you access to over 150 million in inventory globally, 24/7. Just call 800-537-2778. Precision Aviation Group. Others sell parts. We sell support.
Hey everybody, this is Val here with the Vertical MRO. Thanks for listening to this part 1 of our series. If you've enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and leave a review. Your support does help and create more content like this. For those of you who want to continue the conversation, join us on our social media channels and platforms or visit our website over at verticalmag.com. We'd love to hear all your thoughts and questions about today's topics. Until next time, I'm Val. This is Vertical MRO. We'll be seeing you.
This has been the Vertical MRO Podcast. Join us next time for another edition of the Vertical MRO Podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts.